Today on the podcast, I'm joined by Tony Mecia. He's the editor at the Charlotte Ledger in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is a digital media company providing Charlotte residents with the smart, fair, thoughtful news and analysis they need to be engaged citizens. So, Tony, thanks for joining me. Nice to meet you.
Great to be here. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. If you could just set a baseline for us, I kind of start the podcasts like this every time. Just tell me and the audience a little bit about your background, your kind of story in local media, just in your own words.
Sure. So I've been in Charlotte, North Carolina for about the last, 25, 27 years. I came here to take a job in 1998. Gosh, that's almost 30 years, I guess, with the Charlotte Observer. I was a reporter with the Charlotte Observer and later a deputy business editor for a few years, for about, 10, 11 years. Left in 2009, freelance for a little while. And then just sort of, 2019, just kind of started looking around and sort of had seen that local news, as it has in a lot of communities, had gotten a lot weaker. There'd been a lot of layoffs and buyouts at the paper. And so I kind of looked around and said, well, I got some skills I can maybe bring to bear here, still had some sources. And so I said to myself, well, I wonder if I could start something up that would sort of help plug some of these holes that I was starting to see in local journalism in Charlotte. And so that's what I did, started reading up on it, settled on a newsletter kind of as a strategy. It was a little bit, nowadays everybody has a newsletter. Then
Right.
it's not like there weren't newsletters in 2019, but there weren't certainly as many as there are today. So started that in 2019.
Yeah, I know you hit the wave well because you started a little earlier before the big, crazy newsletter craze and everything. Could you talk a little bit more about the Charlotte Ledger? Obviously, it's in Charlotte. What do you mostly cover? Any other formats besides? Have you grown to anything else besides newsletters or anything like that? Just tell me a little bit about the organization. How it's
Yeah,
grown.
it's evolved over the years too. And I think, just because you start doing one thing doesn't mean you are always stuck doing that exact same thing. But my background was in business journalism. And so I sort of started with what I knew, and it was just me at the time. I put out 3 newsletters a week, and the idea was, okay, well, I can see some things that are going on and curate it and add some analysis, and I can do my own original reporting. Over time that's grown. Now we have a staff of 4 full-time people. We work with a lot of contractors. And so we cover a whole bunch of different things, and we're doing a lot of original reporting. That's really kind of our bread and butter is the original reporting. Because that's really sort of where the need is, I think.
Mhm.
You can't just have a bunch of people in town who are curating each other if nobody's actually out
Yep.
there digging and finding
Yep.
the material, right? So that's sort of what the way we view it. And so we've got now like I say, we started with that one single newsletter. I called it the Charlotte Ledger Business Newsletter. And then we added, over the course of the last few years, we added additional, mostly weekly newsletters. We now have a total of 6 on different topics. We got one that covers the Major League Soccer team here, Charlotte FC, when it's in season. We have one that covers commercial real estate, one that's obituaries, one on arts and arts reviews, and then one on transit and transportation, which is, in a lot of cities, that's a big issue. So we got 6 total now, different verticals. We have a weekly podcast. Obviously we're on social media, Instagram and LinkedIn are kind of our 2 big ones. I'm sure there's other stuff and we've started getting into events, webinars. So we're trying to sort of build out a company that's a little more, well-rounded. Most of our revenue, about 75%, comes from paid subscriptions. We're trying to build out, selling sponsorships and events and sort of make sure we're just sort of well-rounded and have a diverse revenue stream.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question because a big focus of this is on sustainability for smaller local news outlets. 75% from is it like do you have a paywall up for that or
We do. It's, a freemium kind of model, what they call
Okay.
it. So about half of our stuff is available to anybody. And then the other half, you have to be a subscriber. You have to be a paid subscriber. And it's $129 a year or $12 a month. So that's sort of the model that we've settled on. And it's probably a little bit in reverse of what a lot of folks do. A lot of people, they start selling sponsorships and then they say, well, okay, I need to get some reader revenue. We kind of did the opposite.
Right.
We had, it was all reader revenue at first. And it's like, wait, let's sell some sponsorships here.
Yeah, if you can do it, that's the way to go, really, I think. That have that direct relationship with the audience, give them something worth paying for, and then you can edit any other
Yeah,
stuff
and I
down.
like
Yeah.
that because our interests are kind of aligned. I mean, we
Right.
basically we can honestly say we work to serve our readers, and our readers are
Hmm.
our customers. By and large. Now we also have sponsors who want to reach those readers, and that's fine too. But yeah, we like that alignment a lot. It's sort of, and it's really, and you've probably heard this talking to other folks, but it really becomes kind of like a community. I mean, we get a lot of tips from
Hmm.
our readers. They say, "Hey, did you know about this? Or have you heard about this? Or you guys should look into this." So it's really, it's been really helpful.
Yeah, yeah, I have heard that before from other folks. So you talked about you launched 2019 as primarily a newsletter, and I know it's on Substack. I've had a number of Substack folks on recently. You're probably the biggest one in terms of audience size and like organization and everything like that. I've kind of played with the platform over the years with Substack, just with some side, now my main business with some side projects. I know it's changed a lot. Do you have any thoughts on like from when because that's pretty early for starting on Substack. Any thoughts on how it's changed that platform and the updates they've done and everything over the years?
Yeah, I mean, we're happy that we built on Substack. I mean, at the time in 2019, it's not like you had a bunch of other
Right.
options. You probably did. There were probably some, but Substack was kind of, in my mind at least, was kind of it. Um, and the landscape has changed a lot. And I noticed a couple of years after we started, there's this whole wave of like newsletter consultants, and I could get all these emails now like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
meet with us on this, and we can turn your newsletter into a podcast and your podcast into a newsletter, and all these different tools and different tech things. With Substack, I mean, the thing about Substack is, I mean, it just, the thing I liked about it was, and I still like about it, is that it just kind of works. I mean, and they have added a lot of features for sure. I mean, they added this sort of the social media element. They're integrating a lot with video and audio and publishing podcasts and live streaming video. They still, I would still like to see kind of more robust analytics. I mean, there are differences, between Substack and a lot of these other platforms. And we're constantly looking at that, but it's definitely evolved. And I know some people really don't like Substack for a variety of reasons. It's been a good place for us to grow. Does that mean we stay there forever? No. I mean, they take as they take
They take
10%
a
of
cut,
your
right?
revenue, which, when you have no revenue, when you're starting out, I mean, that's fine. But as you grow, that becomes a bigger and bigger expense. So, like any publisher, we're constantly looking at what makes the most sense for us, what makes the most sense for, our audience and our business. But, I can just tell you, we personally have found it to be a good place to grow.
Yeah, I'm agnostic on Substack. I just like, I've had other people coming on. I had a side project on Substack a few years ago, and my current newsletter I've started maybe a year or two ago. I've done on Beehive, which is a newer kind of upstart, and I love that too. I think when you get to the scale of having 4 full-time employees and yourself, 10% is a meaningful chunk of,
Yeah,
like you
I
said,
mean, it
chunk of
adds
revenue
up, and they
coming up.
do a lot, and they have,
Yeah.
they handle a lot of customer service. But yeah, certainly, kick the tires other places too.
Yeah, make sure nothing breaks. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to get your take on that. Um, I didn't have this question in the prep I sent you, but I've had a few people on from like your area, like the Carolinas. Seems like there's a lot of buzz of like local news, like startups and like cool newer things going on down there. Do you have any? And like you've been there for a while. Do you have any input on why that is? Like I've had Ryan from 6 a.m. City on here. I had a guy on yesterday from a brand new small kind of Substack he's starting up, and there's some other examples that come to mind. But do you have
Yeah,
any
there
thoughts on
are a
that?
bunch. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I can only speak to this area. I mean, it's an area in Charlotte, where you have a lot of people moving to, people wanting to do new things. It's, a lot of people describe it as a very welcoming area. So maybe it's kind of open to those, you don't have these old sort of strictures. Okay, it has to be done this way. And there's sort of an
Right.
old society that you have to please. Like there's a lot of newcomers here, maybe that has something to do with it. I mean, there's a very highly followed, food and drink scene, probably like a lot of places, but you have, a lot of Instagram influencers, you have a lot of newsletters and different publications focused on, food and beverages and restaurants. I mean, that would be some of my guess. I mean, I've heard a lot of it. We have a lot here in Charlotte that have started up. I mean, a lot of people know of probably Charlotte Agenda, which became
Yep.
Axios
Yep.
Charlotte, sold to Axios. And, they were super early kind of on that newsletter trend, started in 2015. But, 6 a.m. City, I mean, you see what they're doing. They're growing and, moving into all kinds of different
Hmm.
cities. Their base is kind of here in the Carolinas, but they're certainly, I think they're based in Greenville, South Carolina, which is about 90 minutes, from me. But yeah, I mean, they're in a whole bunch of cities and going into more. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, an exciting time. But, it's not like everyone's like, oh, you must compete with all these people. And it's like, well, everybody kind of has their lane and there's some overlap and everybody's competing for people's time for sure. But, most of us get along pretty well and we're strong in some things and Axios is strong in other things. 6 a.m. City does other things really well. So, it's sort of, there are a lot of different choices for people for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I was just curious. It's just funny because just doing the show for a while, like lately, get a ton of people from California and a ton of people from Texas, which makes sense because they're like their own countries, and then like
Right.
all these people from the Carolinas, which is a populated area too. It's just funny how things kind of bubble up like that.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
kind of nice to see,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I know that what we're doing in Charlotte is working and it's going well, but you never know. This stuff is very sort of situational and depends on what the landscape is in different places.
Hmm.
And I've been encouraged to see, even in some of these smaller cities and towns, people giving it a go and apparently, having some success in where your market isn't even, the size of a Charlotte. Charlotte's about 900,000 residents. We're in a county of about 1.2 million. I mean, there is a lot of competition here, but it's just
Hmm.
kind of nice to see this kind of spreading out in a bunch of different places.
Yeah, yeah, it is cool. It's good to see. It's a hot spot in the country for sure, for sure. So it's 2026 now, so I'm legally obliged to ask you about AI because that just happens on every podcast everywhere. So, but I do like to get everybody's take on it. Like, what are your thoughts on it? Are you guys using any tools? How are you using tools if you are?
Yeah.
Just talk about that a bit.
Yeah, so I mean, a few different things on that. I mean, I like you probably read a whole bunch of different things on how people are using AI, and I think it's important for us to kind of keep up with that and understand kind of what's out there. I mean, it's some of this stuff is really amazing. Like I watch
Hmm.
some of these videos, I'm like, is that real or is that
I
not
know. Yeah.
real? And some of the things are obviously fake, but look like they could be real. So yeah, I mean, we keep up with it and monitor it. I do think one of the advantages that we have is that we're doing a lot of original reported work that, frankly, generative AI isn't able to do. I mean,
Hmm.
if you ask ChatGPT, hey, what's going to be, built on the corner out here, on the end of my street, it's not really going to know because it's not really looking at, city development filings. It's not talking to developers. A lot of this is original material that doesn't exist anywhere online, that comes from sort of old shoe leather reporting and talking to people. And that work is, it's hard and it's expensive. Compared to rounding up a list of 5 really good Philly cheesesteak places or something. But we see that as our advantage, and at least so far, the computers haven't quite figured out a way to crack that just yet. Now we do use a lot of the tools, AI enabled types of tools, and that I'm sure a lot of other news organizations use. I remember back in the day when I was at the Charlotte Observer, you used to go, and if you wanted to record an interview with somebody, you had a little mini cassette recorder.
Hmm.
You would record your hour-long conversation, and then you would spend probably most of the rest of the day transcribing that conversation. Well,
Yep.
now, you record that on your iPhone, you just plug it into Otter, and 5 minutes later, you have a pretty good transcript, and then you can do things with that. So there are a lot of time-saving things. We use Grammarly to help us copy edit. We've started playing around with some of these social media type of tools like Opus AI, that basically takes video and will kind of slice it and put captions on it. So there are all these sort of time saving things that I think are great. I mean, it makes us more productive and it makes us be able to punch a little bit above our weight by using these things that not everybody is using or is aware of, while at the same time making sure that sort of at the center of our work, that it's human written, human focused, and doing things that, at least for now, only humans can do. So that's sort of my take on it. Is that what you're hearing from a lot of folks?
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of doom and gloom that AI is coming for everybody's job, and it literally can't for like quality local journalism. It
Right.
literally cannot collect the information, talk to the people. Even if there did have robots out there, people would be, I'm not talking to you. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of people bring up the transcription. Almost nobody uses it for actually writing stories, like, or at
Yeah.
least. Not fully, right.
Yeah, I mean,
It needs to be
headline
fact checked.
writing, sometimes we'll use it for headline
Headlines,
writing or
that
headline
comes up a lot.
suggestions. Like a lot of times I'll put in a story, be like, hey, give me 10 headlines for this? And it'll give me 9 really awful ones. And then one where I'm like, okay, well, that's directionally, maybe we could work with that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's not, humans are still in control, but there's
Yep.
definitely a lot you can do with these aids, and some of, brainstorming, data analysis is another one.
Yep.
I'm not fully confident in it, to give it a data set and say, hey, find some patterns in
Yep.
here. I always like to kind of check behind it, but it's really good at doing things like that,
Hmm.
you basically have a data analyst, essentially. Now it can make mistakes. So you got to be careful and you got to really check behind it, I think. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different things that AI can do. It's really, I mean, it's pretty amazing, but I don't see it. I mean, it's sort of, maybe it's naive to say, oh, it'll never take our jobs. It'll take everybody else's jobs. But
Yeah.
at least right now, I'm not seeing that because, like you said, there's just work that it doesn't know how to do or that doesn't exist in a way that is able to, you know, break news, for example.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right on the mark. Everybody, the top 3 that always come up are transcriptions, especially like public meetings, headline writing, data analysis. Yeah. Transparently, like for my podcast, I generate most of my like titles. No, maybe not generate them, but I get ideas. They'll give me 5 or 10. I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, that's good. Expand on that. And I'll do some more. Then I'll fiddle with it a little bit. And that's how I do most of them. It's so much
Well, and you can take
quicker.
the transcript and you can say,
Yeah.
hey, give me 2 paragraphs of show
Yeah.
notes to
Yeah.
summarize what we talked about, put in some bullet points, and it does.
That's
I mean,
exactly
that's pretty good.
that's my exact workflow almost. Yeah, it's great.
But
So
you're
good deal.
still the one having the conversation. I mean, we're
Yeah,
watching this now. You look like a human. You don't look like an avatar. So
I
maybe
am
it's
not.
gotten so good that you really are, but it seems like you're a human.
I'll never tell, Tony. I'll never tell. But I'm not. I am not an avatar, for the record, for anybody out there. Cool. Okay. So I've been asking a lot of folks this lately. Just flash forward 5 years. You've come a long way in the last 6, 7 years from yourself to a full newsroom. A small newsroom. Where do you see the ledger in 5 more years? If everything goes smoothly the way you want to, following the trends you're seeing and everything, what's the
Yeah,
organization look like
I'm
then?
hopeful that we're gonna be able to add a few people, get a few more reporters, cover a few more things a little better, like local education, for example. I think we could do a really good job on. I mean, it's going to depend, and we've been kind of conservative in how we've sort of managed. Like, it's a novel business concept, but we don't like to spend more than we have coming in. Now, I mean,
Crazy.
I know, ridiculous. But so, I mean, I sleep pretty well at night because, like I say, most of our revenue, we have about 5,000 paid subscribers, receiving our paid edition on a total list of 29,000. And so, when you have recurring revenue,
It's
that's a
nice.
pretty good place to be. You lose people, through churn, but then, we've still been growing. So that's been good. But no, assuming we keep growing, and I don't see any reason we shouldn't, we're going to be in a position to add a few more people. It'd be great to have a newsroom of, right now we have 3, 3 of us on the editorial side, 1 on the business side. It'd be nice to, increase that a little bit, be able to do a
Hmm.
little bit more. So I see us continuing to grow, continuing to increase our subscription revenue, continuing to do better on our sponsorship revenue. And, I think it's, and it's not, back when I started at the Charlotte Observer, the newsroom there was 300 people, and we're
Right.
never going to replicate that.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever going to replicate that.
Nope. Nope.
But you can do a lot if you have a half dozen, 6 or 8 reporters in a city who are sharp and know where to look. You can do a lot of really good work. So that's sort of, I think, what we're.
Is there a world where you would want to expand to other cities or nearby locales, or
Maybe. I mean,
if it
we could.
presented itself? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of focused on Charlotte, and people have
Okay.
asked me that
Yeah.
before, and it's just so. I mean, I don't know any of these other markets. People are like,
That
oh,
makes
you
sense.
should
Yeah.
go into Nashville and do that sort of thing, and it's like, well, yeah, I don't really know that market. I mean, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be impossible, but you'd have to find the right person and have to make sure the competitive situation was compelling. And we're focused on Charlotte. I mean, are there areas around here, surrounding counties that might make some sense? Sure. We have good relationships with a lot of other news organizations in North Carolina. We share, content sharing arrangements with a few different ones. So I don't really feel the need to go into some other city just for the sake of doing it. We think there's a really good opportunity here, and that's pretty much what we're
I.
focused on, and sort of growing it here. And there are a lot of information needs still here. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not like, oh well, okay, everybody has everything they need. There's still a lot of opportunity here to do a lot of things.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I just put up a post on LinkedIn yesterday, or maybe I scheduled it for tomorrow, where I said like maybe the future of local media is like we're so obsessed with like we're like trained in our culture to chase scale and like size and everything. I'm like, if you can have a healthy business in a city or something like that, why? And you know that, especially for like journalism, and you know that city and that community, like you don't have to chase crazy scale necessarily.
Yeah, I
You know
mean,
what I
there is
mean?
this
Like,
thing. It's kind of in the tech world, and there's a little bit of it
yeah,
maybe in this world
yeah,
where it's like, oh, you got to keep growing. You got to keep, show
yeah,
rapid growth. And it's like, yeah, we want to keep growing. And if you're not growing, you're declining probably.
yeah.
But, that doesn't mean you need to just plant a flag in 100 different cities. Now, there are people who have that as their business model. I mean, I know you mentioned the 6 a.m. guys, and that's what they're doing, but they're
Yeah,
they're
that's what they
finding a way to
yeah,
do it. But everybody's different and doesn't make it, it's not
yeah.
like, gosh, we only have 4 people in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're a rinky-dink operation. I mean, I don't think of it that way. I think of it like we've got a good business that's a very sustainable business for where we are, and I'm happy with that. We do good work and love to be able to do a little bit more, but we're not trying to conquer the world by any means.
I think it's a super successful story. When you hear that, like, local news is dying and it's been so decimated, you started this from
Well,
scratch and you've got, like, a I think that's, like, a shocking, like, success, you know what I
oh,
mean?
it's
That's the
been
way I
great.
look
I mean,
at
it's
it.
been
Yeah.
really, a lot of, and it does, a lot of that is centered on newspapers and to a lesser extent
Mhm.
TV.
Yeah,
They've been kind
yeah.
of hollowed out, and it is really unfortunate. And I mean, I'm an old newspaper guy, and I like, I mean, I grew up with newspapers like a lot of people, but that era is of the print newspaper, I think I mean, there's still some opportunities at doing some things in print, but the idea that you own a bunch of printing presses and you're it's hiring people to throw newspapers into people's driveways at 6
Yeah.
a.m. that reflects what was going on yesterday at 6 p.m. is, I don't know, that we're in a different era now. And so it is
Yep.
encouraging to see all the different things that are cropping up, and a lot of people experimenting with a whole bunch of different things. And it's been great to see a bunch of different people succeeding in different ways. And, I try to steal from those ideas when I can, and just see what's working. And it's great to have you and other people kind of highlighting, hey, here's some stuff that's working, and here's how these
Yeah.
people did it. I love listening
Cool.
to podcasts with different entrepreneurs. You can always learn so much. So,
It's fun. Yeah,
uh,
I love it too. I'm a geek on that stuff. Well, thanks, Tony. That's everything I had written down, man. Where can people find you? What do you want me to link to in the show notes and promote
yeah,
and
I mean,
everything?
just online at thecharlotteledger.com. That'll get people there. They can check out what we're doing. I'm happy to talk to folks. And the thing's been really interesting. The last few years, I have people calling or emailing saying, "Hey, I'd like to kind of pick your brain. I'm in whatever city. I'd like to start something up like you're doing. Have What advice do you have?" And that's been kind of nice to be able to say, well, it's like
Yeah.
I can't tell you how it's going to work out, but I can tell you what we did and how it worked out. And so
Right.
it's been kind of fun to see to see more people kind of trying something and getting into it, because like you're saying, it's not all doom and gloom. There are some encouraging stories out there.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Cool. Tony, thank you. Thanks for taking the time. This was really fun.
Thanks,
Great
Paul.
story.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah. You have a great day.
Thanks. You too.